How's it going? My name is Jeff and I'm a licensed occupational therapist working in the United States. And today I want to talk about advocacy for the elderly regarding the population that is aging in place. But I'm really calling it more trapped in place. Why am I calling these elderly individuals or individuals who are disabled, not just the elderly, but those who are disabled, trapped in place? Well, going back to basically when humans invented stairs, it allowed us to save a lot of space, right? You have a certain restricted, just available plot of land that's available to you. And if you build multiple stories, second story, third story, then it allows more efficient use of the space, right? And that's why kind of the elevator allowed us to really live in cities and more denser populations, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The invention and advent of the elevator allowed things like skyscrapers. An example is like the apartments in Hong Kong, right? Like very dense, overpopulated, very small piece of real estate. But I think somewhere along the line, at least in America, we kind of failed the aging in place population. Because when we invented these stairs and elevators, we didn't really account for people growing old and how they will fare and live out the last of their days, whether it be functionally while they age in place or for things even like I would say argue like hospice and end of life. Because like take for example my home, I think this is a really good example. I live in California, not a lot of like land where I live, and there's a lot of two-story buildings in my neighborhood. I live in a two-story home, and there's 2 flights of stairs. Like you have to do a turn, and there's no elevator there. None of these houses I think have elevators. Like I'm curious to know what percentage of houses actually for like residential homes, like single-family homes, have elevators built in for multi-level story buildings. I remember actually on YouTube, there's a video by Jerry Rig Everything where he kind of outfitted his place and installed an elevator. And that was really cool. It's really worth watching for his, I think his fiance at the time, who's uses a wheelchair. But basically what I'm trying to get at is we're not really advocating for this population in terms of like education. And I know probably like as a therapist, we think about this like, oh, like for me, like I know that even though this home I live in right now is like almost like you call it a dream home, I know that when I grow old, I probably will need to move out because I cannot live on the first story. There's no shower down there, and to do laundry, I have to go upstairs. It's just a very small amount of space because there's a living room and there's a kitchen, so there's not a lot of like living room area, like bedroom area for like 2 beds or 2 hospital beds or something. And even then, to get into the home, there's like 1, 2, 3, I don't know, like 3 steps. So I need to install a wheelchair ramp to even get up there if I wasn't able to get up the stairs. I didn't really talk about this, but the barrier to people and what's causing them to get trapped in place is they're no longer to physically or psychologically or both due to like a fear of falls and having fallen in the past to be able to go up these stairs. And even for me, like if I were to get old, I couldn't even do something like install a chairlift system, like like in the movie Up, where they have there's a stairs and then you sit on the chair and it goes up the ramp and it's on like a track system. Those things, they have very specific requirements, like space requirements, and if you have like a turn like in the stairs, that's probably wouldn't work because you would need like 2 of those systems or something, not let alone it being very expensive. And I worked as an EMT before, and these things, at least in the past, have broken a lot. Like I went to extract people from their homes because they're unable to use these lifts, or they lived on the first story even though they had these lifts installed. So what can we do? I think first is it starts with small changes in terms of like educating people, like especially when we see them in the hospital. I think maybe we should start a conversation like, hey, I noticed you living in a 2nd story home. Have you thought about what you're gonna do? Like I've just based on a lot of stories that I've had and like maybe even the research. There are research papers and like I think definitely there is a news article that mentioned this, and and they titled it Trapped in Place. So I'll post that in the description for you to check out after this video. I think about it, but I think your common everyday person may not think about it when they get older. Even if they do, they may not have the means to move out into a home in which it may be more friendly for aging in place. Maybe it's cost, right? That's a huge factor, like being able to live in a place like that. And especially for low income housing, due to space restrictions, like physical space, how many low income housing availability is there that allows like single story living? So I think the answer is maybe twofold. One is maybe having building codes or laws require that elevators or a certain quota or amount or proportion of elevators to be installed in multi-level homes, or definitely multi-level homes, because apartment buildings probably do have it. But if you ever been to some older homes, they don't have it. Like I worked as an EMT and I went to a lot of houses in the Chinatown district and they don't have elevators and it's kind of a nightmare. Or even a lot of the older like Victorian homes or like more just homes that were built earlier in San Francisco do not have elevators. And it's a nightmare to get people out. Even in some of the newer homes, like they have like a lot of turns, they're really tight, let alone dark. The stairs are like just cramped, handrails are like, it's not a good situation. So another maybe thing that may help is having insurance pay for certain amount of services, such as wheelchair ramps from maybe Medicare or Medicaid, covering wheelchair ramps. From what my research, I do not believe that in terms of Medicare Part A and B, there is no coverage for wheelchair ramps. And for Medicaid, I don't think there is either. Although it's federally mandated to a certain degree, it's still up to the individual states in the United States to determine if they'll cover things like wheelchair ramps. But I think that's only really just putting a band-aid on a larger problem. So I don't think people are talking about this, and we should be talking more about this because a lot of our population is getting older and there's either not a lot of space. So what can we really do is just to install elevators or really have ramps or other physical means for people to get in and out of these homes, because it's just can be very stressful and just unethical and just really difficult as a healthcare provider when we're doing discharge planning and these patients understandably do not want to go to a nursing home or assisted living or whatever, and they want to go back to their home to age in place, but they may not physically be able to do it. So what can you do then? You really don't have many options. So I don't know the step-by-step answer to this. I think this takes a lot of critical thinking and more research, but I think we should really start. It's already probably too late, but we should definitely be starting the conversation and talking about this aging in place leading to more of a stuck in place situation, which can be, I didn't talk about the downsides, but you could probably imagine what they would be, like isolation, limited participation in activities and occupations, like no social life. How can you even go to a doctor's appointment? And I didn't even talk about emergencies. What are these people going to do when there's a fire? Like there's a large fire, like wildfires these days. Emergency services can't get to every single one. It takes time. You need to get like a stair chair to extract them. It takes a team of people. So a natural disaster would have just horrible, outcomes because of what's going on in terms of just the living situation in our general American population that is aging in place. So I hope this gets you thinking if you certainly have thought about it before. Even if you're younger and you're like looking into homes, I think this is really relevant to you. Maybe if you have the option into looking at a home that may be somewhere else, but it's single story or it's more accessible, it may be a better option. If you're retiring or you're getting towards more advanced age, that's definitely something you should be thinking about. And maybe you want to start talking to your family or like your children and maybe work something out, have like an in-law unit or whatever you call it unit next to their land and have other solutions.